find that due to the state of emergency declared by the governor as a result of the COVID-19 pandemic and in accordance with the governor's emergency order number 12, this public body is authorized to meet electronically. On April 12th, public notice of this meeting was posted on the town website and on the bulletin board of the town offices at 10 Front Street. As provided in that public notice, the public may access the meeting online and via phone. Please note that all votes taken during this meeting shall be done by roll call vote, alphabetically by first name. Please let's start the meeting by taking roll call attendance. When each member states their presence, please also state whether there is anyone in the room with you during this meeting and who that person is, which is required under the right to know law. Okay, Camille.
Camille Weber, and I'm alone.
Cliff.
Cliff Sinnott. I'm a member of the Energy Committee, and there's no one in the room with me.
And Lou.
You're muted.
Lou Hitzrow, member of the Energy Committee. I'm alone.
Okay, we're missing Robin and Amy today. We do have a new member, Betsy. We'll put you in alphabetical order next time.
Hi, Betsy Stevens, member of the Energy Committee. I'm alone in the room.
Okay, and then Dave.
Dave Sharples, town planner, and I'm alone in the room.
And we have guest speaker Henry Herndon of Community Power Coalition of New Hampshire.
Hello, Renee. I am here and I am alone.
Okay, so we may have Amy or Robin join in with us. Actually, maybe Amy, but not Robin. And Julie, I don't think will be showing either. So before we start with the approval of minutes, I'd like to officially welcome Betsy Stevens to our committee. Welcome.
Thank you, everybody.
Okay, she was recently approved by the select board, so she is on board and ready to go. May I ask you, is there any comments on last month's minutes before we take a vote to approve? Okay, thank you. So somebody want to make a motion?
Approve last month's minutes.
Okay, motion to approve by Lou. So Camille?
I second.
Okay. Okay, well then let's take the vote. Cliff?
Aye.
Betsy?
Aye.
Lou?
Aye.
And I approve too, so minutes are approved. All right, let me quickly do a share screen. Oh, Garrett, could you please enable share screen for this meeting? Disabled participant screen sharing.
While we're waiting, I'm here.
Oh yeah, look at that. So Amy Farnham, could you do roll call, Amy?
I'm Amy Farnham. I'm alone in the car.
Okay, well, Garrett, can you just let me know when the share screen is available and we'll just kind of start off here?
Will do.
Henry, will you need this screen share?
I was thinking I would share the new website that just went up and we could take a quick tour and then leave a lot of the, just show you where things are.
Okay. All right, then let's just wait a minute for Garrett to get the screen share up for this meeting. I can start by speaking while we're waiting for that, because Henry is our first up on the agenda, about the Green Minute Video Project, which is completed. Thank you, Dave, for supporting that project. And actually, I loved your introduction. I loved your background with the grass and everything. I think it came out nice. I think it'll be very informative for the citizens of Exeter. So it came up to be about 8 chairs of committees. There was like the tree committee, the river committee, the facilities, and they all gave a minute or so. And there were so many interesting things, including like an article in Scientific American about the fish of Exeter in the river. And there were some really great like drone shots of flying over Exeter. Bob really put it together nicely. So I think it's something that the entire region can enjoy and look at Exeter and say, wow, that town is some green town.
Is it up and available right now? I haven't seen
Yes, it is now available.
Yeah, it's out there. Yep. I can send a link out so that you can all look at it.
Screen sharing is not Renee.
Okay, all right. So I'm going to just share my screen before Henry starts. So what I do is I put up a visual agenda, and this is what we're going to be talking about. We have our guest speaker, Henry Herndon of Community Power Coalition, New Hampshire. We already welcomed Betsy Stevens. We'll talk about our clean energy projects, the community power aggregation, the solar at the landfill, and then we're going to talk about some of our education and efficiency projects. At the bottom there, you can see the efficiency project. Button Up New Hampshire contacted me and has scheduled a Zoom webinar for the citizens of Exeter on May 17th at 7 p.m. This is the typical weatherization workshop. And the woman that contacted me said that they have a lot of money at this time. The matches are bigger than the 40% average. I'm not sure they're quite as big as the 75 that happened during COVID, but they're somewhere in between. So it's a good time for people to be doing a button up and trying to get a rebate. In addition, I made this graphic about the EVs and hybrids in Exeter. Every Earth Day, I go down and I ask Leanne what the new counts are. And so she's the town clerk, and she gives me the total registration. So as you can see, we're up to 60 plug-in electrics and 342 hybrids, the majority of which are the Prius. Dave informs me we have 2 fleet vehicles and we have 2 more in the pipeline. Yay. So the only thing we're really missing here is public chargers, 0. Okay, so now that we're all ready to go, I'm going to turn it over to Henry.
Sure. Thank you, Renee. I actually would look to Cliff and Lou a little bit and just ask you how you'd like to take this conversation, because I had a couple of conversations with Cliff, and I'm happy to share the website and talk a little bit about some of the resources that are there. But Cliff, you had mentioned sort of the internal discussions in Exeter with regard to potentially exploring the possibility of joining the coalition by adopting the joint powers agreement. I don't know if you want to speak to that a little bit.
Sure. Lou and I had been talking about this starting in February. I think we wanted to go give the selectmen an update on the whole community power issue, and we're going to suggest 2 courses of action for them. One was to join the Community Power Coalition, and second, to establish the aggregation committee so that we could start working on our plan here in Exeter. And a little wrench got thrown in the works with House Bill 315, where seemed to be a little unclear what the viability of community power aggregation was going to be for a little while, because that bill sort of undercut a lot of the aspects of community power that were going to make it viable. So we hit a pause for a little bit, and thanks to the coalition and a lot of other people, as we talked about this at our last meeting, that the bill has been amended substantially to the point where it's a positive thing now rather than a negative thing. And I think so we're back on track essentially. And we want to go back to the selectmen to talk about these 2 recommendations, but would like obviously the Energy Committee to be fully informed and on board with what we're going to recommend. So there are some things about the coalition that I thought the committee, Lou and I thought the committee should hear about before we go any further. So Renee invited Henry to come to the meeting to do a quick sort of overview of what the coalition is and why it's an important thing to further community power in New Hampshire, and how we might benefit from joining it.
That's helpful.
Lou, did you want to?
I would just add that Henry kind of filling us in about the joint power agreement as well, and how that fits in with our potentially joining CPCNH.
Yeah, absolutely. That's all very helpful context. So what I'll do is I'll pull my screen up and just sort of give you a little preview of this website that just went live. And I also want to just say, Cliff, I'm glad you mentioned the House Bill 315 effort. I think it's important to sort of recognize the success that many communities in sort of an informal coalition had in that process. The Exeter Energy Committee, Amy Farnham testified at that hearing, along with many other communities from across the state. And sort of that unified speaking with one voice at the legislature is one of the many benefits we feel that a more formalized coalition can achieve for communities across New Hampshire. And we're at a point now where just in January, the coalition's corporate charter, or its joint powers agreement, was approved by the New Hampshire Attorney General, and its first two members signed up. So I'm going to sort of talk about this while I poke through the website a little bit, but there's a lot of great information here. There's just a lot to dig through, but we have an about page, a members page, talk about the services, learning center for educational readings, get involved, which is where you can sign up for more information, and then a sort of a news library. But what I'm going to focus on is in this about section, just a couple of brief pieces that you're going to want to be familiar with. So first and foremost, so what is the coalition? It's a joint powers agency, which means it is a public nonprofit that is governed by its member communities. So this isn't a for-profit enterprise. This is it's actually a governmental instrumentality created by multiple cities and towns entering into a contract with one another. That contract you can read about when you go to this Join the Coalition section here. So that'll scroll you down past what is community power to the Joint Powers Agreement. This is the document that outlines the corporate charter of the Community Power Coalition, and it is the contract between those cities and towns to join and share their authorities jointly in a new corporate entity. So this is if Exeter were to choose to join the coalition, which if you were to choose to do that, this is what your select board would vote to adopt. So you'd want to be familiar with it. And that can just be accessed by a click of a button on the website here with some introductory sort of table of contents pages, and then the actual document here. So that's where you can find that. Another important item we've got here in this sort of menu is the cost sharing, which I know will be a question of concern for the governing body. And what's important to understand is that there is no cost to adopting the Joint Powers Agreement and joining the coalition. There are details on how costs will be shared once the coalition is operational. And the expectation and the intention is that all communities will be able to launch programs at no upfront cost, and costs will then be recovered through the revenue associated with electricity sales. There are further details on exactly how those costs are shared, and the design of this is really done in such a way where only members taking certain services are going to pay for those services. So there's no way in which this one community is doing a project or taking a service and is foisting those costs onto other members. It's all very neatly bucketed so that you only pay for what you're signed up to receive. And if one community wants to develop a solar project, that would be a special project contract that couldn't be imposed on any other members. So there's details about the services cost, which is sort of the complete service bundle, or the all-in power supply, managing the data, et cetera, the things that everyone's going to need. There's the specific project costs, which are like if you build a new solar array. And then there's sort of just your general administrative. This is your catch-all for like your small number of staff that will eventually be hired by the organization. And again, there's a lot of really good information here that I encourage you to read later, but again, self-funded through the revenue from electricity sales.
Henry, that's an important point. If you could just stop there for a second. The general administrative costs, because this is something that Lou and I had asked you about, and basically at no point, even after the cost sharing agreement is in place, those general administrative costs would not come out of the general fund of the community. Is that right? It would come out of the fees generated from the power aggregation. Am I saying that right?
Yes. Under the community power law, RSA 53E, you may not use general funds to pay for the operation of a community power program. The operation of the program must be paid for via the electricity sales. So we're not taking extra general funds and allocating it towards running this in any sense.
Thank you.
And that's just the way you pay for general and administrative costs. It's on a proportional or a pro rata share of that member's electricity load.
Gotcha.
Henry, as I look towards how we might proceed, I see us getting the select board to allow us to form a community power aggregation committee, and that committee, I would assume, would use a lot of your resources to help us as we move our way towards coming together with a community power plan. It's entirely possible, though, that we come up with a community power plan, it goes to the voters, and it gets voted down. And yet we've used a lot of your time and energy and resources to help us. But do I understand it that we don't pay, or the town doesn't pay anything for that, assuming that all of a sudden we can't form a community power aggregation?
It's a good question. So I believe that is addressed in this governance section on the website. But yes, you are correct that it is possible that Exeter could join the coalition, benefit from all of the resources in terms of getting educated, using our template electric aggregation plan, educating your community and bringing this to town meeting. And that could result in a no vote at town meeting. And then that's essentially a risk that the coalition takes that will put that work in the expectation that we will onboard a member and have a revenue stream associated with that member. But it is possible that that does get voted down. So just in sort of the text here, so we're a tax exempt government instrumentality, join as members, appoint to the board of directors. Let's see. What's key here is participation is voluntary, and I'm trying to, there's a section on the website that describes a member may withdraw at any point in time. And if that's prior to entering into cost sharing contracts for actual power supply service, then there's no service, there's no cost associated with that withdrawal. Once a member is signing those contracts for power and other obligations through the coalition, those obligations, you can't just back out of those obligations.
Right. Understanding.
Does that answer your question, though?
Yeah, I think so. And I assume if you go carefully through the joint power agreement that is stated there, what Cliff and I were thinking of doing is asking the select board to pass the joint power agreement by the town lawyer, to have the town lawyer look at it before the select board makes any final decision as to whether to join CPCNH.
I'm sorry, can you say that one more time?
Cliff and I had talked about asking the select board if we can or should pass the JPA by the town attorney, to have the town attorney look at it and make sure that complies with whatever is needed by the town. and give a recommendation to the select board as to what the town attorney thinks. Does that seem logical? And would it become clear to an attorney how the fees would be required or not required, depending on where we are in joining CPCNH?
I think it'd be great to run it by your town attorney. I think it's great that Exeter has a town attorney. And I think that the way some of these original slides here have been organized, they are designed for the attorney to know where the things they're looking for are, such as limitations of liability, other bonds. This is sort of very much geared towards, okay, if an attorney reads this table of contents, they should be able to find the things they're looking for in this table of contents.
Good. Okay, thank you.
So I'm just going to think quickly. I don't want to go through this whole website because there's a lot of content, but we have, I encourage folks to go to cpcnh.org when they have time and take a look through. There's information about the organizing group, the communities that have put this forward, and, bios, and there's information on the Coalition Network, which is all of you folks who are interested and have participated in events and supported in legislative initiatives. There's information on a recent or something that will be forthcoming, and that's Roadmap to Community Power, which is sort of our guidebook to walk communities through step 1, join the coalition, 2, form your committee, collect your data, and so on and so forth. And we're going to break these steps in the roadmap out into specific templates and resources. So those will all be available to members and available on the website. So there's just a lot of really good information that I hope folks will take some time to take a look at.
Another quick question for you, Henry. At the time we bring this before the select board to ask them to approve joining CPCNH, if that's what we decide to do, is it possible that we could have you or maybe Julia Griffin attend that select board meeting?
Absolutely. I think it'd be great to bring in Julia Griffin or another member of the organizing group. And I know that they are willing and able to participate in that and share their perspective. We're very much at a point where Julia Griffin, the Hanover town manager, and the folks in Lebanon and Nashua and Cheshire County, they have worked for a year on designing this organization, and they've put in so much work, and we've come so far. And now we're really sort of at that threshold of we're trying to maintain momentum and build momentum by bringing more community leaders into the fold and educating them, so we have a deeper bench and we can really establish the board of directors. So I know that Julia would be very interested in helping to share information and resources with Exeter.
Yeah, I suspect that the select board may well have questions that neither Cliff nor I have the expertise to answer, but maybe you or Julia would be great resources to do that.
We would be pleased to do that, and just let us know which meeting is the appropriate meeting to attend.
Yep.
And just for the sake of the rest of the committee, I think the reason why Lou and I believe this is important for the town to do, and that there are two benefits. One is the technical assistance, the templates that Henry has mentioned that will help us put together our electric aggregation plan. Benefiting from all the experiences of other communities that are doing likewise. But secondly, and probably more importantly in the long run, is the access to the market, to the aggregation market, that the coalition will do instead of us having to do that aggregation ourselves. So, joining with as many other municipalities in New Hampshire who will be members of the coalition to pool our electric demand so we get better prices and access to, perhaps better prices for concentration of renewables, for example, or other projects that some municipalities may go forward. So I think it's vital for that.
And Cliff, just to build on that, you're exactly right. There's sort of the community power implementation support, the upfront technical assistance and getting these programs off the ground. But then there's, the business operations and the project development once we are operational that we feel very much will exceed this sort of broker model of community power. So you're exactly right, both in the pre-phase implementation support, launch support, and in the operations. We think there's a lot to be had for the economy of scale and the pooling of resources.
Great.
One more piece I'll just add to that. And this is if you want to go to member benefits, I know there's a lot of text, but member benefits on that about page, we talk about energy portfolio risk management. And this is a concept that we'll want to familiarize ourselves with, where it's sort of like you can either sign one power contract for 1 to 3 years and hope that price on average beats the utility price. That's not what the coalition will do. What the coalition will do, we'll have staff that actively manage a large diversified portfolio of many contracts for power, short term, medium term, long term, and actively manage that on into the future at the wholesale level, which is a better way to manage risk and stabilize prices long term, and is a way to actually contract for building local renewables, a long-term power purchase agreement to build a solar array or solar plus storage. So there's sort of the one-off contract for 3 years versus the energy portfolio that is managed for risk, and that is a core difference and benefit of the coalition.
Mm-hmm.
So one question that comes to mind for me is the decision-making sequence for the select board. If we go to, sorry, Renee. If we go to their meeting on the 26th, and best case, we provide a lot of this information to them ahead of time, along with a cover memo that recommends what we think they should do. I guess it's a possibility that they'd be ready to do that right away, but I think more likely they would want to take it under advisement. Like Lou says, maybe they would want the town attorney to look at the agreement. I would think they would. So I guess our approach maybe should be provide the information, provide a recommendation, and say, please take this under advisement and let us know if you need more information from us, but our recommendation is the town join the coalition, something like that. Dave, do you have any thoughts about how we should approach this?
I don't really have anything to add to that. I'd have to think about that and talk to the town manager, see how he wants to proceed.
Okay.
Okay, any other questions for Henry?
I have one more. Henry, can you just fill us in a little bit on a somewhat unrelated, I guess related topic? SB 91, I just got your email this morning, but maybe you can give us a little more detail.
Yes, so SB 91 is an omnibus Senate bill with 5 sections. The most relevant section is section 4, or it's part 4. They call them parts. And I describe it as creating a competitive power market for New Hampshire energy generators. This is an alternative to the net metering expansion, where instead of going from the 1 to 5 megawatts on net metering, this is a way for 1 to 5 megawatt scale projects to sign bilateral contracts with, say, a community power program to sell their power locally. So this is a critical bill in terms of sort of making the most out of community power in the state, and it will really enable communities to build those local renewables and buy that power and supply it to their residents and businesses. Also, storage is an important aspect of the bill as well. So enabling large or that sort of mid-size 1 to 5 megawatt storage through community power programs. What else to say about this bill? It's being heard at the House Science, Tech, and Energy Committee Monday at 10:30, and we're really hoping that folks will log in support of Senate Bill 91. And what other details do you need to know?
There was a mistake, you said, in section 5, I think, or
there was a type. Yes. So section 5 of the bill, or part 5 of the bill, is analogous to House Bill 315.
Right.
So House Bill 315 is all set and is good. So there is no longer a need for part 5 of Senate Bill 91. So we are in process in recommending to the committee to amend and remove section 5 and support sections 1, 2, 3, and 4.
Okay, well, similar to what we did last month, where I sent around to everybody the link so they could go in and log in and support or not support on SB 109 and HB 106. I can send that around to the committee again so we can all log in and voice our opinions on this SB 91 parts 4 and 5. So I will do that, and you guys will get that shortly after the meeting, and you can go ahead and do whatever you'd like. Okay, and back to the community power aggregation, I'd like to state for the benefit of maybe select people that would be viewing this to get some background on what community power is, or for the public in general, I'd say if you really drill down the basic platform as to why this committee is interested in community power aggregation is that it drives clean energy. And if we as a town have a goal for clean energy, like X number by X year, this project is very key to that goal and to goal setting in the state. Would you agree with that, Henry?
I couldn't have said it better, Renee. And at the beginning of this meeting, I wanted to compliment you on the agenda, and I want to find a way to get you and Josh at Clean Energy to promote all the work you do with just public education in framing things. So agree completely.
All right. Thank you. Okay. We could let Henry off the hook unless there's any other questions here.
Thanks, Henry.
Nice to see you all.
Nice to see you too. Okay. Thank you very much. All righty. Well, that was informative. So I will schedule Cliff and Lou to be on the select board for April 26th at 7 p.m. Yep. And you guys will ask if they will join it, send them something in their packet, and then we will just kind of slowly go along and see what their timing is on it before we form it.
Do you think that we should present this as an update on community power, and in that update state our sort of recommended next steps, or do you think that we should be asking them to take these steps at this meeting?
I think a straight out ask, but not for this meeting. Just ask, tell them we're asking this and we're going to come back to answer further questions, because it's a lot of information.
Yeah, I think we make a recommendation, but yes, we have to provide them with all this stuff, because most of them don't know that much about community power. Mm-hmm. Plus, I think we do want the recommendation of the town council, mm-hmm. and that's going to take some time, I think.
Right, and you send the information in the packet on Friday, so they have 2 days over the weekend to become expert on this, which is just crazy. So.
Yeah, we still have those 2 things we wrote up, Cliff, that we were going to send in that earlier meeting. We can look at that again and mm-hmm. see if it's still relevant, and add a lot of the stuff that Henry has just now provided for us.
Yeah, I did look at it again, and I think it's all pretty good, except for that we just don't need to have that part about 315 anymore. So
right, exactly. I hope we don't need to. I assume that's
yeah, right. And then the other question I think is, this is sort of the second recommendation, which is about the forming the EAC. the Electric Aggregation Committee, we've gone back and forth about whether this should be a separate committee or a subcommittee of the Energy Committee or an ad hoc committee of the Energy Committee. So it would be not just members, not just us, but additional people too. I think we should sort of have thought that through and decided about it before the rest of the committee, before Lou and I tell them what the Energy Committee thinks.
I think an ad hoc committee, because I think, a number of us, but not all of us, and then some experts.
Okay.
Or maybe people employed by the town or whatever. Definitely some outside.
Makes sense to me. So it would be part of the Energy Committee, but an ad hoc, allow additional members, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Okay. Shall we move on, or any last minute thoughts on community power aggregation?
Well,
right.
Cliff, you and I ought to get together and hash out what we're going to send to the board.
Yeah, and maybe with Dave. I mean, to talk to Russ, or is Russ back?
Yes.
Okay.
Oh, good.
Yes.
Great.
Good.
Oh, that's a happy thought. Okay, well, that's a good way to end it. And a segue over to Dave Sharples, Sustainability Officer, to give us an update on what's going on with the solar panels and anything else we need to know, any other projects we can support you on, etc.
Thank you. Just an update on the solar array, the SB 109 that needs to pass. I think I told you at the last meeting, I testified, maybe I didn't, but I testified at the March 15th hearing, the last hearing they had on the bill, and then they laid it on the table. So that is just part of the process, and we'll probably know more mid-May, whether that goes to the House or not, and in what form, but remain positive about it. And since the Warren article, passed, but is, we can't move forward with a 1.77 megawatt unless we get the legislative change. And that was, everyone knew that, going in. But it still looks positive, but we didn't end up going to the bond bank. You can go to the bond bank twice a year in June and January. But we weren't in a position to go and issue the bond until we knew that the state law passes. So assuming it passes, we'd be on to go to the bond bank in January, which doesn't. Whoop, I lost you here. Wait,
you mean the bond bank in June?
No, in January. The bond bank deadline for June was like last week.
Oh, I see.
And then they issue it. So it would start up, but basically we need to, that's good timing because, we didn't plan on construction, most likely this year anyway. And we have to do our interconnection study. We did the pre-application, Revision Energy sent in the pre-application. They didn't get anything that, they said that they were worried about. They just got data back and about what the system can support out there and so forth. So we'll probably, that'll take a few months, the process for the interconnection study to determine what upgrades, the utility will be looking for to connect into their system. So that's what I have on the solar array. On another issue, another matter, I'm part of New England Municipal Sustainability Network, or it's called NEMS. And it's a network across New England of sustainability officials that talk to each other, try to share ideas, scale implementation of carbon-free systems and so forth to address climate change and other sustainability initiatives. So I was on a strategic. When I joined, they were starting a strategic planning process to kind of revamp their vision and their mission and kind of, in order to serve their members the best. So I've been on that, and on that, I interviewed a bunch of folks, various sustainability coordinators across in Mass, Vermont, and Maine. And one thing interesting, why I'm telling you this, I just gave you a little bit of background, But I was talking to the sustainability coordinator in Brattleboro, Vermont, and they're looking into inline hydro in your municipal water system. There's like, I don't know if you've heard of it, but there's like little, turbines, mini turbines that they put in throughout and take advantage of the water pressure that's in the line. So that was a really interesting idea. And I started researching it. I mean, it's not something that, I can't say it's feasible here or economic or so forth, but it has been done. People are working on it. They haven't done it yet, but they're researching it. So that was a kind of, I thought, pretty exciting idea and worth exploring. So I will be, just looking into that to see if there's any potential for that here in Exeter. But I find it interesting. I had never heard of that.
So Dave, this is municipal water supplies, is that?
Yeah, I mean, in theory, it could be any water pipes, but water pipes have pressure.
Yeah.
They, just in it, and they install these, turbines in strategic locations to take advantage of that energy. I haven't gotten much further at that, like where does the energy need to be used? Does it collect somewhere? I mean, I don't know, but it was a very interesting idea, and Brattleboro, Vermont is looking at it.
Huh, interesting.
So I'll keep abreast with what they're doing, and the whole point in NEMS is to look at what others are doing and see if you can emulate and then share what you're doing so others can hop on to you, because we recognize that this is not just a local effort. It's going to take everyone rowing in the same direction to address the issues.
Excellent.
Yeah. And that's all I got.
Okay, thank you. Oh, that reminds me, just as a side note, that Lou and I both took an online class through, what was that, London's Imperial College, through edX edX, which is free education. It was a class entitled Adding Renewables to the Grid and what that does to the grid. And both what Henry's talking about and what you're talking about, it was kind of covered in this class. It's very interesting if anybody else wants to take it. It was through edX. What was it, Lou? London Imperial College?
Yes, but it was linking renewable energy sources or something like that. That was the title of the course.
Tying them into the grid, because we were wondering, how in Texas, when there was the big freeze and then people claimed that the renewables were taking down the grid, we wanted to research that. So we took a 6-week class on it, and anybody can take it and it's free. Okay, so moving on, I guess, from Dave. Thank you. I've already talked about the Green Minute, and I'll send everybody a link so you can see the Green Minute and share it on your various social medias. It's stunning. I think it's going to get like an Emmy or a Grammy or something. So Camille is next with her student liaison update.
Okay, so I have some kind of bad news. The website for the Talon was being maintained by this nonprofit called the Project for Better Journalism, which is going to they're stopping their work. So right now we're working on a temporary website, and that should be published by the end of the week, but it's not going to be as good or as accessible as the other website. So that's just a temporary one, and then we're going to try to figure out what to do from there. So I haven't had my article published yet for last month, but we're working on that right now. Yeah, that's my update.
Okay, all right, thank you. We'll look forward to an update next month, see what happens with your website. Okay, and I mentioned that for on the agenda next that we're doing a button-up. We've done button-ups every year. We always do button-ups, but so we're doing a button-up on May 17th at 7 p.m. This will not be filmed through Exeter TV the way it was before. This will be, the webinar will be through Andy Duncan's personal Zoom, and Andy Duncan is an instructor at Keene, I believe, in building science and sustainability and things like that, and he always does this, so that's what he's going to do. And it will be Andy Duncan and Ted Stiles, the dream team, doing this again. And see, the last thing we have here is the Amy, if you want to pick a date for a heat pumps educational webinar now that the weather's turning, maybe we can focus more on the air conditioning aspects of it.
Yeah, it's a little late. I mean, we're getting a little bit into the AC season, but we certainly could still do one. Do you want to talk offline about a good date for that?
Yeah, we'll pick a date and we'll just do one more for this season. And then we'll see, we'll pick a date.
Sure.
Okay.
When you said, are we involved in this button up or no?
I will be. I just come on and I do the welcome and introduce the professionals and help with the questions and things like that. I mean, any of you guys can come on it, any of you guys can run it if you want to take it from me, but
Can you explain what it is?
Sure. Button Up New Hampshire is a project that comes through New Hampshire Saves. New Hampshire Saves is what all the utilities like Eversource and Unitil get together, and they are required, I think, by law to put a certain portion of their monies into rebates for customers. And some of the rebates can be through what the heck am I thinking of? Well, this particular one anyway, the button up is the utilities will have a matching grant for you to upgrade the insulation and other things in your house. Not only that, but your refrigerator and your lights and everything, from soup to nuts. If you get involved in this program, if your house qualifies for the matching rebates, and how you would find out if your house qualifies is if you go onto their website and you put all your information into the energy calculator, and you see if your house is just leaking energy or if it's already buttoned up tight. If you fall within a certain range, you get the rebate monies. We did it a number of years ago. That's how I heard of it. And at that time, it was a $4,000 matching grant. So we paid $4,000. They paid $4,000. We got $8,000 worth of insulation and styrofoam sealing of the basement sill and all kinds of stuff like that. And so the point of it is to drive down energy consumption in your house so that the utilities don't have to add on more power, not power, but I guess capacity is the actual word.
Okay, thanks.
Okay, and so that brings us to other. Does anybody have any other? Or we could end the meeting early.
I would just, assuming that we are going to form an energy aggregation committee, if anybody knows people who would be good candidates to be on on such a committee, it would be helpful, I think, for Cliff and me to know that. Well, I think what we need are people with expertise in energy infrastructure, and of course, they'd have to be Exeter residents. But do some thinking if there are people who might be good additions to a committee like this. That would be really helpful for us to know. Cliff and I have been talking about it, and we. I don't know if we really come up with too many names, and so be helpful to have some thoughts.
Lou, I have someone in mind that does energy procurement, and I think he'd be really good. I just wondered if you would be able to put maybe some bullets together for me to send him.
Yeah, I mean, we can probably send him the same kind of thing that we're going to give the select board, and I think we want to wait until the select board says, yes, go ahead and form the committee, because I think once we get that, let me get rid of this here.
And just so everybody else knows while Lou's doing that, Betsy gave me a good lead on a person that does kind of investment. That was a really good lead. Lou spoke with him at length.
Nick, yeah.
Yeah.
The problem with Nick is he's so busy, he probably could not be a member of a committee immediately, maybe in the future. But anyway, Amy, I think in the kind of stuff that Cliff and I are going to put together for the select board would probably be good recruiting material.
Yeah, I mean, everyone's busy. We have to, phrase it in a way that stresses that this is really important,
Yeah.
It's also not a long-term thing necessarily. It's task specific to developing the aggregation plan. So, it's probably a year's worth of meetings to work on that, something like that. And I think the way the law is structured, once that's completed and the town votes to go ahead and do community power aggregation, that committee, I think, goes away.
Yeah, I think so. And even so, I mean, the person could work on the committee until a certain point when the vote is taken and then decide, well, I'm off the committee now, whatever. That's the end of my commitment to you. So that's all we need, is somebody to take us through to the vote. Okay. Anything else, people? Well, it's been lovely seeing you again.
Virtually.
Motion to close. Okay, Dave has motion to adjourn.
Seconded.
Okay, and then roll call vote. Amy?
Aye.
Betsy?
Aye.
Cliff?
Aye.
Lou?
Aye.
Dave and Camille. Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank